Welcome, everyone. I'm Tracy Fitzpatrick, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at Netcom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We are very excited to host today's event, Direct, Plan, Improve, the DPI Advantage in ITIL 4. Presenting today's topic is Rina. Rina is an IT SM professional with over 10 years of experience in delivering and coordinating IT-enabled and network change projects across the UK and USA for governments and financial sectors. She's also an accredited ITIL trainer, having an experience of managing workplace and desktop solutions, networking and infrastructure, as well as finance, SAP, and SaaS-based applications. Now, please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored to your specific requirements. If you are interested in a further discussion, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session is also being recorded, so you'll get free access to the recording in the next 24 hours via email. Netcom Learning helps customers build innovative learning organizations by achieving a smarter workforce, adapting to change, and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. We do have 9 practice areas in which we specialize. They encompass people, process, and technology training. And today's presentation is from the Business Process Practice area. Netcom Learning offers a comprehensive training portfolio of courses for the topic being covered today. Our upcoming classes include various trainings on the given courses. You can also access a variety of marketing assets, such as the free training and blogs, by clicking on the available event handout. These offerings can be found with a simple search on our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session is designed for IT professionals and leaders seeking to enhance their IT service management capabilities. Our trainer will delve into the crucial components of ITIL 4 DPI, providing valuable insights and practical knowledge to equip you with the skills and understanding necessary to excel in today's rapidly evolving IT service management landscape. And now I would like to give you a quick overview of the logistics before we get started. To begin with, you do have the option to view in full screen by clicking on the full screen button on the right side of the GoToWebinar viewer. Simply hit the escape key to exit the full screen. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters. Feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenters here in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. And to get the best out of today's events, we've included the slides, courses we talk about, and marketing assets in the handout section of your GoToWebinar viewer. You may refer to them at any time to get a better understanding of today's topic. And we do realize that some of you may have to leave early and want to let you know that as you do leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to take a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience and improve our future sessions for you. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. And now I'd like to pass this over to our trainer to present today's topic. Hey, Rina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Direct Plan and Improve webinar. In this class, I'm going to give you an overview as to what the class contain and what are the advantages for an individual undertaking this class. So, a little bit background about myself first. I'm Rina Brahmbhatt. I have been working in IT service management For more than 15 years, I do consulting assignment for service and project management. I also teach at the university, and I also am a freelance trainer where I teach a range of service and project management related classes. I have my master's in IT service management that I completed about 2 years ago, and that was a very rigorous process. In today's class, everything I'm gonna sort of um, talk about, impart my knowledge is based on ITIL 4 framework as well as my experience, what I have seen in the industry. Obviously, things have changed. The ITIL model has evolved. So a lot of the things we're gonna talk in this particular class is focused around when you have application or when you have a service, how do you direct the effort, sort of like direction is in a way sort of giving guidance how things needs to happen. Strategizing, like I have X problem, what I can do to resolve it. That's pretty much a direct component. Plan is, let's say, I plan to wake up at 4 a.m. tomorrow. So you plan for it, right? You may need to go to bed early. You need to set up an alarm. You need to make sure, you don't snooze your alarm. If you do want to get up at 4. So you get the point. The plan is the whole element around planning for something. So in this case, we are going to be planning of our services or our improvements, our operational efficiencies, application retirement. Just something to remember, planning isn't always about planning for something new. You could be planning an upgrade to an existing service, and you can apply this framework. And improve, I mean, that's kind of, the word speaks for itself. It's a framework that's going to help us. How do I improve? You could be improving a process, you could be improving a service, you could be improving a function, you could be improving an organization, you could be improving how you do things, you could be improving your measurement. Pretty much anything and everything you do in service management space, you can apply this framework to improve. Okay. We're going to talk about what will be covered in today's class. So I think it's important that we start with what is DPI? Where does it fit into ITIL 4 framework? And in the next slide, I'm going to be giving you an overview of, you know, what the ITIL 4 certification looks like. I think the highest one being the ITIL Masters, and you have managing professional, and then you have ITIL strategist. DPI is part of the ITIL strategist. Then we're going to talk about what are the key concepts within DPI. So this is a big class. If you were to go enroll into a certification class, it will probably require 2 days of intense training. That would be something if you wanted to do sort of instantly. You can do self-paced as well. I think there are providers who does offer self-paced, and you learn at your own pace, and then you go for an exam. So the key concepts of DPI is going to talk about what what does the full class look like. In this masterclass today, it is not my intention to talk about everything, but give you a high level concept that when you listen to this webinar, you understand if I go ahead and enroll into DPI class, this is what I will learn. Okay. Next slide, I'm going to talk about who this class may be applicable to. Who is the audience for this class? Who are the stakeholders? Who are the users? Audience can be a stakeholder or a user can be an audience. It's kind of like a group of people. However, there are a group of people who would need to use this day in, day out in their job, or some of this in their job, whereas there may be a group of people who would come under the stakeholders criteria where they will benefit. So if I give you one example, if in my team we are using the DPI framework and we are trying to improve how we deliver training, um, and maybe we come up with an idea that we provide training in person in a classroom, on demand, or we can provide training using gamification. Okay, those are the three concepts. Now, me and my team are making improvement, but you as a user will benefit. So you may not learn directly or you may not participate in DPI work we are doing, but you are going to be benefiting from the work which I and my team are doing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Then we're really going to focus on the actual material which will be covered in DPI. So things like what are the key principles and methods of direction and planning, governance, risk, and compliance. This is really important. Continual improvement, that's part of the improvement section. Communication and OCM, these are important concepts. The reason I say that is sometime an organization does a very good job of transforming something, improving something, changing something, but they don't communicate, and this is where the failure happens. So, for example, imagine in your company, you you have a sort of like a big work office, and if you need a computer charger or you need a iPhone charger or something, you're required to, open a ticket and it goes to a triage team and they look at it and they fulfill it. The whole process can take 3 to 5 days. And people are sort of, getting a little frustrated. Some people just spending their own money to go purchase something from the shop or Amazon because that's so much faster. Um, However, your team lead or facilities manager decides that we can definitely improve. I think we can offer a little stop and shop IT related items, and we can like use part of the building to do that. And they set up a, maybe they're not meant by a person. Maybe they just have a vending machine where you can go take your employment card, scan it, and choose an item you need, and it will just sort of give you that. And they invest money, they invest time, but they don't tell people. No one knows that such a service exists in our building. What's going to happen? I mean, I guess eventually people will find out because someone might say like, oh yeah, I don't know what this is, and you tell so and so and so and so. Eventually people will find out, but it's still a failure because you fail to communicate. You fail to inform people that, hey, we've upgraded and we've introduced this new service for your benefit. So communication and OCM is very important. Communication, we will look at a little bit later. It talks about, how to communicate, what to communicate, what's the medium to communicate, etc. OCM is more than communication. OCM is looking at, if I'm making this change, how does it impact my organization? How does it impact my people? How does it impact my budget? How does it mean, how does it impact my culture? Sort of, is looking at very holistic view of the change and its impact. Next one is measurement and reporting. So in this particular section, we are going to be focusing on, what are the methods, what are the processes you can use to measure the performance, to, measure the velocity, measure the functional efficiencies, all those wonderful things. Because if you can't measure, you won't know whether you're improving or whether you're degrading your service. You just won't have that benchmark. Also, the other benefit of doing measurement is that people in the team are aligned. So, for example, you take a training class and then you receive a feedback survey to say, hey, tell us how the class was, what the environment was like, what the material was like, etc., etc. Um, by doing that, the goal is that we actually get factual and consistent information that we can use to measure our performance. If we didn't do that and someone just called you up and say, hey, I'm calling from Netcom, I know you attended this training, can you tell me what it was like? They don't document anything, just, so they probably make like 10 phone calls like that and then come back into the meeting and say, yeah, I spoke to 10 people. Everyone said it was fantastic. And then the manager might say, can you elaborate more? Like, fantastic in what sense? Like, what was fantastic? Was it the course material? Was that the environment? Was that the trainer? I guess you get the point. By having a mechanism or a process to measure effectively is equally important for us to know whether we can improve or whether we are going downward trend and we need to make some drastic changes. If you didn't do that, you wouldn't know. um, a reporting section, so measuring is one thing, but if you don't report out, what's the use, right? Like, so if you're familiar in IT management right now, there are so many fantastic tools which will give you, reports on demand, instant, real time. It's all fantastic, but they need to be meaningful. People need to be able to translate what the report is saying. For example, in many of you probably participate in Zoom meeting or Teams meeting, like all those virtual conference and meeting platform. When the connectivity goes down, whether it's your audio, whether it's other person's audio or something, I don't know if you've noticed, but you get those bar signals to show you like, is this a connectivity issue, or audio is being disconnected, or maybe there's an option that you can switch off the videos if the videos are on, so the bandwidth is improved. These are all really important aspect of reporting. Now, if you are someone who are using this platform on a daily basis and have been using it for like more than few months, you know what those things mean. But it could be someone who's totally brand new, day one, coming in, sitting in the, sort of in front of computer, trying to attend a conference or a class using one of those virtual platform. They have not received any training, and they see all these different messages pop up. You know what? They're left to make sense of it on their own, which they can do that. That's totally fine. I think nowadays people probably would read something and the the systems are smart that they do use common language, so sort of like audio interrupted, you don't need to be trained on what audio interrupted mean. You can read and make sense of it. However, some of the times things can get a little complicated and they don't really say the specific message. It's just you trying to make sense of it looking at the bar and things like that. So um, it would be important for you to know how to read this reporting information which is being thrown at me from this virtual system. If you notice nowadays, a lot of virtual platform, online platform, when you log in like first time or first few times, they'll have a pop-up which says, would you like a guided tour? That's basically their way to show you the system really quickly that if this happens, this is what it means. And it's always beneficial because that way you can, if there's information being thrown at you, you can actually make sense what it means. Last but not least is the value stream and practices. So ITIL 4 is very big at this particular concept and functionality in the framework. Value stream mean, and we're going to cover that a little bit in depth later, but just to give you sort of what does it mean. Value stream is when you or a team or a process or a system is doing step A to B to C to D to E, sort of like one after another, What value am I generating? That's the whole point. So it's like value stream. And if I'm not generating any value, why am I doing this? Now, sometime it may be just for compliance. For 99% of the time, the steps which are being taken is to generate, create, utilize a value. There may be something which may not be generating a value. However, it is required to, for people to do that process because it's required by the compliance. For example, let's say you call your bank and they take your name, etc., etc. And depending on the sensitivity of the topic which you're likely to discuss with them, they are obliged to inform you that now you're talking to me on a recorded line. Everything we say is going to be recorded. I think sometimes it kind of this thing goes on for like a more than a minute where the agent on the other side is like reading out a list of things, and you as a customer, like suddenly myself, I'm like, come on, give me a break. I know I'm calling you. I know we're going to talk about it. I don't know why you have to say it. It doesn't necessarily create value for me, but I know it's important because they need to do it from the compliance standpoint. So that's sort of the value stream and practices. So DPI as sort of a has a range of practices that would be covered in this particular class. We're not going to go through them. I will give you a high level overview. I think one of the continual improvement, that is something we would be talking a little bit more in detail. But apart from that, there will be an overall definition of what practice is, and the ITIL 4 framework has, more than 30 different practices which are interconnected and supporting each other, and each practice has a purpose. Why am I doing this practice? How is it benefiting me? How is it benefiting my team? That's the goal. And the goal of having a practice is to make sure that we have a common understanding, we are aligned in what we are trying to deliver here, we understand what our roles and responsibilities are, we understand who is going to be accountable, we can have a common agreement on what will be measured, so we know whether our practice is being effective or requires an improvement. And then there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions as we conclude the class. All right. So we're going to talk about the first concept, which is ITIL 4 certification. So this is a really good diagram. If you are someone who's looking to pursue their career, building out ITIL 4's expertise, specialty, definitely I would be sticking that on my wall or my office board, whatever you where you look or map out your career goals. I would keep that in mind. So the basic foundation is sort of gives you a very light understanding of what ITIL 4 is. Um, it's a really good course, gives you I don't want to say deep understanding, but gives you a vocabulary and meaning of all the different things ITIL offers. Okay. We have two sections. We have ITIL Strategic Leader and we have ITIL Managing Professional. DPI is part of both. It's ITIL Strategist, which I kind of talked about a little bit earlier, and it focuses on directing, planning, and improving services, applications, organization functions, teams, everything within our service management space. I'll give you a very little overview on the other as well, so you understand how they all support each other. Um, Create, deliver, and support drive stakeholder value and high velocity IT. It talks about managing. So at this point, the service is up and running, the organization is functioning. How, like, you can think of this from an operational perspective. That strategy has been defined, operations is underway, and how do we make sure that it's generating the value it's intended? That's the goal of the managing professional. ITIL strategic leader is more about a little bit above the operational. How do I strategize? How do I improve? Like it could be I need to launch a new product in the market. It could be I am creating a new service offering. It could be, most for the most part is trying to solve or strategize something new. And then the managing professional team or managing professional resources would come in and keep that thing going. That's the idea. And then you have ITIL master. So once you do the professional and the strategic leader, you have an option to pursue ITIL master. That is the highest level of certification. If you were starting at ITIL foundation, give or take your capacity and your rigorous following how soon you want to finish, I think within 18 months you could get yourself ITIL master. Next one. All right. So I know some of this I've already covered, but I think it's worth repeating. And as I go through this, I'm going to make sure that we talk about example behind it so they make sense and they're easy to digest. So key concept which we are going to be covering is it definitely is practical and strategic methods to plan and deliver continual improvement. Oh, you may wonder if I don't have this, let's say I don't know anything about DPI and I want to improve things, what does it look like? So let's say for a minute, I forget that I know anything about DPI and I try to improve. The earlier example I gave you, the vending machine, to give you like a small disposable items for computers and iPads and etc. So I don't know anything about the DPI framework, and I'm seeing a lot of complaint that you know it takes a while for them to get the replacement charging code or replacement headset, etc., etc. So uh, I definitely know that I need to improve this because I know users are complaining about the service. So I might talk to my manager and say, I'm getting a lot of complaint here. I'm not quite sure. And manager says, how many complaint? Can you put that together for me? And then I get the data and say, for last 6 months, we have received 30 complaints. And then he says, okay, what does it mean for the budget? Do I have any idea? How can I make improvement? And I might say, maybe we can do like one business day delivery, but we would need a courier who to get the items, quicker from our supplier to us. I guess you get the point. Like I'm sort of like just randomly brainstorming. I don't really have a real conclusive or um, an answer that is backed up by the data. Okay, so that's kind of a missing part. If I don't know anything about DPI, I can certainly make improvements, but they could be random. They're not measured effectively. It may take a lot of time. So the idea is that the concept you have in DPI framework, you can make sure they are strategic, they are practical, and they help us to plan and deliver the continual improvement. Now let's take the same example, and now I know about DPI. So when I see those complaints, first thing I would want to do is put the complaint summary and analysis in a meaningful slides or Excel or narratives of some kind that I can present it to my manager. And so I would include things like per week, how many items we are requesting, how many complaints we are generating, what is the average processing time. Those are all like meaningful KPI that would help me to paint a picture that the service is not working and the users are complaining. Then I would create another slide which will talk about alternative solutions, to say, okay, what can we do? One of that is expedite the delivery process. Number two is have the vending machine. Number three is just put like spare items in people's drawers or something, so they don't have to do anything. They know this is broken, take the old one out, throw it away, and put the new one in. And then, of course, we replace the spare item, right? These are some ideas. And then I talk about cost implication. If I do solution one, what does it mean? If I do solution two, what does it mean? If I do solution three, what does it mean? And now I go to my manager and, sort of present the whole case. And then he can give me a decision, or he can say, can you find out a little bit more? But you see how streamlined this particular process was? There was no random guesses, there was no brainstorming. It was very clearly structured, and that's the benefit of me following the DPI on what I'm trying to improve. Number two is the impact of agile and lean ways of working and how they can be leveraged to an organization's advantage. So, I know I'm going to kind of refer to the same example so you can really understand how the concept can help you to improvise on how you do things in your team. You probably are familiar with agile ways of working. Agile is sort of a small increment kind of work. So I don't necessarily have to have everything built out today, but I can do small improvements. Lean is being efficient about how you do things. I think there's a concept we talked earlier about value stream. So, lean is kind of making sure that all the steps which is taking me to create a service, generate a service, is creating the value. People are utilizing the value. And how we can leverage this methodology of agile ways of working, lean ways of working, to enhance our organization, enhance our functions, enhance our teams. So the same example, the vending machine, right? Agile and lean ways of working. When I think about that particular solution, it's not something I have to wait to get like hundreds of items in stock, or create a fleet of transportation to get the speedy delivery. It's not like that. It's kind of very small. Like the first step is identify where the vending machine can reside, that is accessible by all, including the disability compliance, because we want to make sure if someone's in a wheelchair, we don't want to find ourselves that that person in a wheelchair can't get to it, right? And then the second step is make sure we have the stock. And third step is making sure we have a secure system where the machine or the reader of some kind can read the employee identification, and then will give the item the employee needs, really. It's really that simple. It's very agile, very lean. It really doesn't talk about much wastage. Only downside I might do need to think about is that the machine will be plugged into the power socket, because it's kind of, it needs electricity in order to self-operate. So if there are any electrical issues, that service will be out of order. And you know what, you will be putting that next to the machine, or if there is an outage, you will communicate and let everyone know, so people don't waste time going to the machine expecting something but they don't receive it. You may also think about, okay, how would people know how to use or what to do? You can just put a cheat sheet or an instructions next to the machine, laminated permanently there. So you don't need really require people to be trained. If you have an online portal, you can have a sort of like a, self-recorded video people can watch on demand, like sort of like, let's say my laptop charger broke today. I go to the IT portal and I don't know what to do, so I just search. I need to order a new laptop charger. The search will throw back like a knowledge article and a video, and I can watch and stuff, and I can take myself to the vending machine, get the stuff I need, and be done with it. If you think about it, I know it's kind of, I'm talking about it and I hope you can visualize, but it's really super simple. And that's what it means to be agile and lean ways of working. Number three is also important because we can be agile and we can be lean, but it needs to be aligned with the product and service management to meet our business requirement. Okay, so the example I just gave, let's say in my building, people were ordering this laptop charger or iPad charger once every 6 months. So if I look at my transaction, I would only see like 3 orders placed in last 6 months. Do you think it's fair for me to invest so much money and time to get the vending machine in place? I don't think so. Um, I mean, yes, there is an issue, but it's not as much, or it's not such a bigger issue that I can devote all my time and effort to um, solution this problem because the demand is really, really, really minute. Okay, so this is really important that all the efforts are channeled into meeting our business requirement, driving successful organizational transformation, and embed the continual improvement. Um, it is very important that when we do follow, you know, continual improvement, it's not a one snapshot. It's not a one time activity that, okay, fine, I improved this issue and now I don't need to look at it. That's not how it works. The goal really is to um, ensure the improvement culture, how to do those improvements, how to measure those improvements are embedded into the organization at every level. Um, it's not good enough just for managers or junior analyst or senior management or executive or the VP level. Only some of them. It really needs to be at every level in order to get the maximum value. Um, Obviously, DPI is one of the four ITIL publication that builds on the concept of ITIL Foundation. So the one which we looked at earlier. So if you do already have ITIL Foundation, or if you are thinking that before you do this class, you're absolutely required to do the ITIL Foundation certification, but it really builds on it. There is nothing new in DPI that would not have been covered at the ITIL Foundation. When I say it would not have been covered, like ITIL Foundation will really cover a really basic, very simple understanding, very clear definition. And then obviously, it will help the candidate to do the ITIL 4 strategies, direct plan, and improve formal examination. And um, the key concept are actually the core syllables for DPI. Okay, so here are, continuation of the key concept, and all these blocks, really high level to say, concepts, topics that you need to know or you would know when you complete the DPI. So direction and planning, improvement, operating models, different methods, risk and scope of control, vision and mission, strategy, tactics, and operations. So direction planning improvement talks about continual improvement. Operating models methods talks about measurement and reporting. Risk scope, risk and scope of control is governance, risk, and compliance, which you will see later on. Vision and mission is part of continual improvement. Strategy, tactics, and operations is like the overall. The strategy is like how am I directing? Tactics, things I need to do, things I need to plan for. Operations is I am in action, I am delivering things, and how am I going to continue to improve? Governance, compliance, and management, part of the risk, policies, control, and guideline. You need to have those in place for the GRC. Value, outcome, cost, and risk. Those are important measures to show us that whether our service is delivering value or not. Continuous delivery, that is uninterrupted delivery. It's not continual improvement. Just good thing to remember. Continuous delivery and continual improvement are two different things. Communication, of course, OCM and communication are big part of DPI, and measurement and reporting on, what are we measuring, how are we going to report on. Okay. So we're just going to talk, a little bit more about what this different concept mean. And again, these are very high level. So continuous delivery, just going to reiterate, is not the same as continual improvement. It really helps us to leverage the impact of agile and lean in enabling the continuous delivery of value for the organization. So, if I think about Netcom as an entity, right? So they are in the business for teaching, delivering, first class training, mainly focus on technical sort of classes. But that's not to say that they were to deliver a class, let's just say ITIL. ITIL 4 foundation class is being delivered, and it's an in-person class, and you might have a candidate who says, oh, I think I love this concept. I think it's fantastic, but you know what? I do need, like, I am a developer, I'm a senior developer, or I lead a team of developers, and we need a little bit help in communication, because we have the best of intention, but we're not very good at communicating what the issues or what the improvements are in pipeline, etc., to our stakeholders or to our users. So Netcom might, so continuous delivery mean, obviously we Netcom want to deliver value, and we have this issue here. We're trying to do the ITIL foundation class, but the gentleman who is in the class had made it very clear, like, I love the concept, but here is what I'm struggling with. They could do one of the two things. One is to ignore and tell the person, okay, I hear you, I understand, but that's not what we are here to talk about. We are here to talk about IT Foundation. That's one way. Number two is, you may talk to the individual and say, you know what, thank you so much for sharing this with me. Let's discuss more in the break time. I don't want to interrupt the class. We have a lot to get through. So let's continue, but you raise a very valid point. And in the break time, I would like to spend 15 minutes with you. So break time comes, you speak to the person who had raised the issue, and you said, um, by the way, we also have this class. It's technical writing. You know, this is what it covers. If it's helpful, I can do an introductory webinar just for you and your team. Here is my email, reach out to me, right? That is leveraging agile and lean in to do continuous delivery, because we are in the business of delivering training, and we have a user who's clearly outlined to us what their requirement is. We don't want to ignore. So where possible, this is what the organization will be trying to do. Directing and planning. Um, I know we talked about this already a few times, but I think it's worth emphasizing and reiterating that directing and planning is all about, how am I going to resolve an issue at hand? How am I going to improve it? That's the how part. And then the planning is what am I doing? What is team doing? So the basic is we need to understand the concept of value, outcome, cost, risk, and their relationship to direction, planning, and improvement. If you don't, let's say you don't understand the concept of value, outcome, cost, and risk, and you just focus on improving or planning, are you going to be successful? I think you may be. That probably will be a random thing. But if you want to be very strategic and very lean in terms of how you're going to be improve and plan things, you definitely need to understand what does value mean, what is an outcome, what is a cost, what could be a potential risk. Um, all this information will help you how to channel your effort and how to plan for improvement. ITIL Foundation um, really covers the definition level of all of this and really helps you to understand what it means. Okay, so now we're going to talk about governance, risk, and compliance. So, governance really focuses on policies and procedures one has to have in place. So, if you think about, are you familiar with like going to an airport or a clinic or cafe or something, and they offer like free Wi-Fi? And then before you connect, they ask you to fill out a simple form, like maybe your email or name, and they ask you like terms and condition tick box, like you agree to this, and they have set of restrictions what you can and can't do using their internet resource. That's basically governance. Um, Putting boundaries in a good way, outlining policies and procedure so everyone's aligned. No one is sort of left to make their own decisions and find themselves in a troubled water after. Um, and I think nowadays, like every technology you touch, may it be tangible or a service or something, has some kind of policy in place to protect everyone really. Risk. Some people think risk as something that is happening now and they have to address it. Not necessarily. Risk has various different flavor. Let's say I am setting up a technology conference in person, and we have a capacity to sit about 50 people, and we have sold 50 tickets. So, it's at full capacity, and we did not have any clear guideline on whether people can bring additional people or not. And some people made an assumption that, hey, I'm going to this fantastic thing, and I'm just going to take my friend or my coworker, and instead of 50 people, now we have 80 people waiting to attend this conference. Now that, as I was planning this conference, I could have potentially identified that yes, we could sell 50 tickets, but we could be at over capacity. And I made a plan that we will offer some standing seat. The people who has not made the booking and still likes to attend will have a standing space. So that is my way to mitigate the risk. So when it actually happens, we have a plan, what needs to be done. So that's the idea. Now it may not happen. Only 50 people made a booking and only 30 people turn up, but that's totally okay because if it was going to be in overcapacity, I had a plan, but if it's not, that's fine. I do not need to execute my plan. So that's what risk actually mean. And in service management space, again, it's an ability of a team or a resource or a person to identify what are the potential risks that can happen and what are we going to do with it. Are we going to accept it? Are we going to transfer it? Are we going to mitigate it? Etc. etc. Compliance is a set of rules and policies which are set aside by generally it's from outside of the organization. So, for example, if you work in a payment industry, we have, I think they call PCI compliance, like payment processing compliance. If you work in handling data, I mean, a lot of all, I probably don't want to say lot, all technology handles data of some kind, depending on the country you're residing, the compliance would follow. So, for example, in US, we have PII, personally identifiable information. In Europe, they have GDPR. So it varies, but there are range of different compliance model. And then the concept in DPI, you need to understand what's applicable to your technology, to your organization, to your service that needs to be followed. And then this particular compliance, potential risk, how we're going to govern things are built into your service value stream. So it's not a silo activity, but it is something that is done. part of your process, part of your value delivery model. Okay, improvement. I know we've talked a lot about it, and I just do want to sort of say it one more time. And you're going to learn a little bit later, there really is a really good methodology on how you can implement continual improvement for all types of improvement. So this is really important. All types of improvement. It's not technology improvement, it's not process improvement, it's not team improvement. Literally anything and everything you want to improve within your organization, you can apply this model. Communication, learning to apply key principles, methods of communication, and OCM for direction, planning, and improvement. Again, we're not going to talk each one of those, but I think I'm going to give you a high level overview. OCM, organizational change management, the nature, the scope, and benefit of OCM and the OCM practices across the enterprise. This is super important because it really helps you to assess the impact of the change in your organization, culture, business, process, technology, pretty much across all domain. Measurement and reporting, of course, learning the key principles, methods of measurement and reporting in direction, planning, and improvement, again across all domain. Last but not least is value stream and practices. So how we can use the different value stream and use the different practices and apply them appropriately using the methods and techniques available to us within DPI. Okay, so that's pretty much, you've heard a lot about key concepts in DPI, and I'm sure if you were paying like really good attention, you can memorize them all, and you know everything you need to know about DPI. And later, so after I talk about the stakeholders and the audience, later on, I am going to be sharing, what does those each of concept actually mean. We have a really nice, clear, concise diagrams. So you're going to move away from a lot of this reading sentences, and you're really just going to understand the concept, which you can visualize and learn from at very high level. That should help you to make a decision. Is this a class for me? Okay. So who could benefit? Who needs to know about DPI? Well, managers, supervisory staff, and team leaders. ITIL, IT professionals who likes to get deeper understanding of ITIL 4 concepts, how these activities can be implemented to enhance the quality of the service management within an organization. An IT professional who was already working in a role which has the service-based business model. IT architect, IT planner, consultant, audit manager, security manager, developer, operational staff. I hope it's clear that it's pretty much everyone working in IT. Okay, I mean, let's say you brought your a human resource manager to learn about DPI. I'm sure they'll be bored to death. I think only thing that might excite them probably would be the communication section and OCM section. They would like really flourish. But apart from that, like I have no idea what these people are talking about. So just be careful. That's not to say you can't introduce a non-IT business stakeholder. I think you can. Probably DPI might be a bit more in depth for them. Maybe ITIL Foundation might be more appropriate. And the senior IT executives and the leaders, now they may not be on a daily basis churning out or be part of the process DPI is implementing. However, they could benefit from understanding or sharing their strategic vision, the cultural aspect of embedding the continual improvement. So definitely it will be beneficial for them to attend DPI. Okay, so obviously you heard a little bit about value stream, and now this is our chance to sort of go a little bit more in depth of service value system. So um, each items or concept listed on this diagram has a specific definition that is covered by ITIL Foundation. And it is not my intention to read out the definition because I'm sure you can read it yourself. but my goal is that I would I would share what the purpose is of each of this concept. And if you are familiar with ITIL Foundation, especially when I teach and when I learned the revised model ITIL 4, I had a great difficulty differentiating between the chain and the system, because you see the service value system over there and the service value chain underneath. It's like, what's the difference? I don't quite follow, but you're gonna learn, and I'll give you a very simple trick. So just like think like SVS is the big umbrella, like that pretty much has everything that you need to know. And SVC is how you actually make things happen. So service value system like paints the picture, and service value chain is like the steps you execute to deliver the value. Okay, so opportunity and demand, that's pretty much the starting point here, where the example I gave earlier about having a vending machine, right? So there was an opportunity to make an improvement to the service, and there was a demand from the customer because I had lots of um, negative feedback on the service, right? So that's the entry point. Guiding principle is ITIL has a range of 7 guiding principle. They can be applied in any situation. They are not exclusive, they are interconnected, and we're going to cover them. Um, Governance. We talked a little bit about this earlier, setting out policies and procedure, how we're going to govern things. The risk and compliance is also part of governance here in the value system. Service value stream mapping. Um, this is where you would be utilizing the guiding principle, the governance, the practices, the continual improvement to actually deliver the value, to create the value stream. Practices, like I said, ITIL has, over 30 practices that you can utilize. And the goal of the practice is to have a consistent model in place that has the purpose, the benefits, the roles and responsibility, the measurement matrix in place a team or a resource can use and deploy. And continual improvement, the goal of continual improvement is embed the continual improvement in organization at every level. There is a very specific framework which we're going to learn a little bit later. I think these are like, I think 7 to 8 steps, and they are continuous, and they are sort of they're not, I don't want to say they're like circular step, because you kind of, depending on what the issue or what you're trying to improve, you can start at any steps, but they sort of like they do cycle around, like, because it doesn't stop. Remember, it's not like one time activity, it needs to be continuous. And using this wonderful value system, we are creating value for our stakeholder, we are creating value for our user, we are creating value for our partner, we are creating value for our team. That's the goal. Here is the service value chain. Now this is a lot more. You see how tiny it looked here in the service value system, like, oh, that small segment. It's definitely a lot bigger than the other 4. And then here we are actually going to talk about how the service value chain is executed. And demand and value, they are like static. That's how things actually get started. But having said that, what you're trying to do, so the entry point may vary. So for example, if I have a demand or if I have an opportunity, I might start at engage. So what it means is, for my vending machine example, I engaged my manager, right? And then based on the information I produced, he could give me a decision and say, yeah, I think I like your idea about vending machine. I can see how this is going to benefit. You can plan for it. I planned for it, and I don't need to design or transition anything because there is nothing exists right now. Like there's no vending machine in place, right? I'm not designing a brand new vending machine here. So I might jump into obtain because I'm going to be getting the machine from an outsider vendor, right? So I will obtain and then I'll go straight into deliver and support. So I'll make sure the machine's installed, the training guide is there, and it's pretty much ready to go. Of course, we do have to support it. So if it's faulty or the items running out, etc., we need to have a support mechanism in place. And goes like I delivered a service and that is creating value for my customer. So as you can see in this example, I kind of jumped around, and that's what the service value chain is trying to depict. So because you kind of see like the arrows going linear, arrows going from demand to value, etc. So based on what you're trying to solutionize, the steps you would take is different. Now, um, I could have another example where, let's say, um, as a company, we are trying to improve our training offering. So we trying to introduce a new concept. I don't see the demand for it, but I see an opportunity to improve. So I might engage with my technical director and say, hey, I think I would like to create, some sort of gamification model using the ITIL concept that we can give it to our users. Obviously, it's for them to purchase. It's not freely available, but for them to sort of learn ITIL in a fun way. So I talked to my technical director, and he's like, "Yeah, that's it. That's a really good idea, but we don't really have people who develop games. We have all the knowledge about the sort of what ITIL 4 courses look like. We have contacts where we can market our service offering." So they're like, okay, well, you know what? We can talk to few supplier who actually are in the market, and their unique skill is to develop games. So we might sit together and narrow down a list of supplier who develops or build games, focusing on academic. Like, of course, if I were to speak to someone who is developing car racing game, totally a no match because the image is like, I have no idea what you're asking for. So we might narrow down and focus on the, the supplier who actually develops game academically, or teaching. Their goal is to teach. So we do that. We find few. We talk to them. They say, "Yeah, excellent." Now, we are kind of ready to go, and then our compliance director comes in and say, "By the way, we don't own ITIL. That's owned by Excelos. Can we talk to them and just make sure we have their permission?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's an important point. Tick. Okay, fine, we do that." All of these things come together. So from demand, opportunity to go engage, I plan, I design, I obtain, I improve, right? And then in the end, we may just develop this thing and launch it into the market, or as we do some benefit analysis and we realize, well, you know what, this is not really viable because it's overcomplicating. Maybe we don't know how and who's going to download and what is like sort of, we lose control over a lot of authentication section where we don't know whether the person who said I took the class and I passed exam was exactly the same person. Long story short, doesn't go anywhere and the idea gets canned. That can happen. Okay. I don't want you to think that every idea will go out and deliver value. As you walk through different service value chain, you may realize that A, it's not viable, B, it's quite complex, maybe we lose the quality aspect, C, there really is no demand, D, it takes really a lot of energies and resources to maintain for such a small utilization, so it's not going to go forward. But that just really sums up what the service value chain looks like. Next concept you will be learning to expand is the 4 dimensions of service management. This is very important. So you have the system, you have the chain, and then now you have the different dimension. What it focuses on that is as you are creating product and services which is going to produce value, here is the 4 pillar. You can call them like I say like pillar because they support each other. The official word in ITIL is 4 dimension of service now. So in your exam, you're not going to read 4 pillars of service management. I just want to be clear, but for my own simple understanding, that's what I like to call it. Organization and people, information and technology, value stream and processes, and partners and suppliers. So these different dimensions coming together. So all the examples I have given so far, at some point I needed people. At some point I need information and technology. At some point I need a process and value stream mapping. At some point I need a, sort of a partner with an outside. When they talk about organization and people, that's pretty much internal, and partner and suppliers focuses on me contracting with someone. Now I could be a strategic partner or I could be a supplier. I just simply have a contract where I have a requirement and they supply that requirement. It's really that simple. um, Now you see another dotted line outside of those 4 dimensions that also has an impact. And in a short form, you can remember that as pastel: political, economic, social, technological, legal, or environmental. So these 4 dimensions are additionally impacted by pastel factors which we have no control over, like what's happening in global economy. I or my organization have little control because so many different elements like politics, the global warming, the legalities, what technology is available in that. So many different things come into play to decide the economic viability or economic stability, or I guess economics altogether of the country or a city or a town, whatever you want to call it. So when you are also designing and building services and offering services and trying to create value, they may have an impact. An example, nowadays, a lot of big companies like built out their own data center. I think Facebook or Meta, now they call themselves, is one of them. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, like they don't outsource data storage. They just do their own data center. And some of them, I mean, you probably can Google it, but I read somewhere that Microsoft was trying to build a data center under the sea, so they don't have to use the sort of like a energy to keep that data center going. Of course, it requires a lot of cooling mechanism, so the things don't heat up. I read that. I have no idea how advanced they are, but that's just one small sample, right? Like what the service offering is, which is like data storage, data utilization, data archiving, and the environmental factor that because now we have more data that needs managing, more data centers are popping up, consuming more energies. They're coming up with this innovative idea that we could do it under the sea, would require less energy resources. Okay. I'm taking 5 minutes break, and after the break, we can resume the rest of the slides.
Sure, we are now going to take a 5-minute break, but before we do that, we are going to launch a quick poll that we want to invite you to participate in. Doing so helps us know how we can better serve you by telling us who might be interested in more information or in taking some additional training. In addition, we have a lot more informative webinars coming up, so please go to netcomlearning.com/webinars in order to register.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. Let's start where we left off before the break. In this slide, it's trying to show us what is the value, what is the outcome, and what is an output. And the balance between the two is going to help us create the value. I'm not necessarily going to go into the each definition of it is, but just and if you do study ITIL Foundation, you would learn about what each of this term mean, um, just from sort of concept perspective. If you are trying to define value for the service or a product you are delivering, the goal is you want to make sure that you support the outcome. The goal is that you remove the cost. The goal is that you remove the risk. When you're able to do all of those things successfully, you are creating value. Now, when it says cost removed, doesn't mean it's free. It just means that, there is no immediate cost to each user. So the example might be when you purchase a training class, you pay one fee, and that includes your course material, access to the trainer, videos, books, exam cert, etc., etc. Right? So the cost is bundled up. You don't have a headache to go and pay trainer fee separate, go and pay exam cert separate, go and buy books separate, go and purchase videos separate. Now, some businesses may do that. That's they might have like on demand module, but even saying that, like even when you say go out and purchase a sort of a recorded videos, you don't have to go purchase a license to watch the videos, or you don't have to purchase the functionality so that it can generate caption. You don't have to purchase a functionality that you can adjust the playback speed. Like those are like inherent feature that are available to you because you just made a purchase of getting a video. So hopefully you get the point that the cost breakdown is so not so laborious or so cumbersome. That's the idea. It doesn't mean that it's free. It supports the outcome. It gives you what you're looking for. It's meeting the business requirements, and the risk are removed. We can't completely not have any risk. I mean, that is nice, and in some cases that may be possible, but sometimes the risk is there and there is a plan to address those risks. um, Next slide we're going to talk about is, and this is a very simple slide, really. I wouldn't spend too much time on it. What it shows us that if you are an organization, you may have a relationship with the service provider organization, and you might have a teams and department working within that organization, and then how the relationship is between all parties. So team as a purpose, they have objective, how the purpose will be measured. Then they will have indicators like how well they are meeting the objectives or not meeting the objectives, and they will use matrix to ascertain that whether they are meeting the objectives or not. The same way that has to be aligned to the service provider organization. It could be an internal, it could be external, it depends. All right, so you have a service provider organization, and then some service provider organization may have a parent organization. So the example is Google has Alphabet. Another example is Meta has Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. Like, not all organization will have parent organization. However, some will do it. And the idea is you need to make sure that the matrix and the mechanism you set up in place is aligned with each other. Um, we talked a little bit about governance, risk, and compliance earlier. So when you are defining a strategy, when you are delivering a service, when you are delivering a product, I think it's important that obviously, you know there are like four dimensions of service management, right? Like organization and people, partners and suppliers, value stream and processes, and information and technology. So when I'm thinking of my governance, risk, and compliance, I am thinking of that in alignment with all of my four dimensions. It's not in silo. Now, an example is, let's say you go to, um, let's say, retail website, for example, Macy's. You go to the website, it has a pop-up that you can subscribe, and if you subscribe today, you'll get 15% off. And then it asks you to enter your information like name, email, where you live, how old are you, maybe date of birth, what you like, etc., etc. And you do all of that and you submit. The data goes back into their application. Who can view that information? What you just submitted is limited. Not everyone in an organization can see that. um, and I think that's important because we don't want everyone in the organization to have access to that information. A, they don't need it. B, it could be waste of time. C, they could completely misuse the information. So for example, if everyone had that information, they could steal the information and sell it to their competitor, or they might steal the information and start sending this customer an email about their own product. I mean, we don't know what can happen. So that's why the governance aspect is so important, because it will govern who has access to that information, who can view what. Sometime like the date of birth and things like that, those are like uh, sort of blocked out, that not everyone can see it. Sometimes it's probably just there because sometimes someone enters it, it gets converted into a month, and the year disappears, because Macy can then send you a promotional email. Like if it's your birthday in November, they could email you on November 1st and say, hey, we know it's a big month, and to celebrate your big month, we are giving you, 50% off on this coupon, etc., etc. But in order to drive their business incentives so they can make more sell, they are relying on this IT system. But using the governance, risk, and compliance, they are also making sure the information is secure. It's only accessed by the people who needs to, and there's no scope of compromising or misuse of that information. The same thing is applied across all the dimensions. So for example, partners and suppliers, you want to make sure that you have a right contract in place, that partner or your supplier can't take advantage of you, or they can't start repackaging your product and services and sell it to your competitor and things of that nature. Value stream and processes, again, you want to make sure that as you map out the process, as you map out the value stream activities, you're not compromising. So for example, the earlier example I gave, where the bank person like explains to me that this call is recorded, etc., etc., and I'm like, no, I don't want to hear anything, just move on, just tell me. And they're like, okay, fine, I'm not going to say anything. That's not acceptable. Okay, that is introducing risk, because fast forward, if I have an issue, I could say they never explained this to me. And information and technology, of course, that itself, any technology, we know the advantages may be greater, but it equally comes with the, risk. So that needs to be governed. And I think that's why right now in the current climate, there are a lot of debates and discussion around AI, like, who controls it, how do we know what it's doing. um, I know in academic section, like there are a lot of concern that students are not writing their assignments. They are relying on, the technology to produce their work. So there are software out there who actually detects who wrote the who wrote the assignment. So it's kind of like catch 22. Um, Okay, this one is very important, and this is the one I've been talking about, I think, a few times already, for continual improvement. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so these are 7 steps, and they are kind of like one step after another. These are super important. Obviously, remember we said earlier that this is for all your improvement. It's not just one time activity, it needs to be continuous. So when you're trying to improve something, first thing you do need to know is, what is the vision? What am I trying to achieve? Then second thing, you're focusing on, where am I now? Like, okay, so I want to improve the service for dispatching the laptop chargers and iPhone charge. Like I probably call it consumables. Okay. Where are we now? Well, right now I'm getting customer complaint. The delivery takes up to 5 days. Some people don't use the service. They just go and make purchase directly. Okay. Where do I want to be? Well, I want to make sure that I shorten the delivery time of within one business day. I want user to be satisfied and have a good experience. Number three, I want to make sure that it's sort of given to people who needs it. So it's not like someone going in and emptying out the vending machine. So I want it to be secure. Um, that's what I want. How do we get there? So I have a plan. I'm going to get the vending machine. I'm going to put the instructions there how to use it. I'm going to publicize, and then I'm going to take action. It's actually executing what I have planned. And then after the implementation is done, I'm going to check, did I get there? Like, are the customers more happy? Are they, well, I think happy probably is not the right word, because sometimes you can do fantastic thing and people may not still be happy. So, is my customer service satisfaction rate improving? Is the delivery time less than one business day? Is it secure? We don't have any evidence of people sort of abusing this vending machine. And then how do we keep the momentum going? So I've got this loop. How do I stay on a continual improvement path? And that's the idea. On the next block, so you have what is the vision, and then you have business vision, mission, goals, and objectives. Where are we now? Performing the baseline assessment. Where do we want to be? We define the measurable targets. How do we get there? We define the improvement plan, taking action. We execute that. And did I get there? Evaluating metrics and KPIs. It's really simple. It's a really, really, really useful model. One should always consider when they are thinking of continual improvement. Now, when it comes to continual improvement, just remember long term is strategic, medium could be a program or project, and short term is operational. That's generally how they are classified, and they could be interlinked. Like, so there could be a big strategic initiative to say, we are going to improve customer service in this building. That's the strategic goal. And the program might be um, consumable products, security, temperature. Like, these are different programs. And the project is, okay, consumable products. And one of that is the vending machine. Like, so you see the relationship, like how they are being classified, but they all ultimately report back into the strategic goal. Now, in order to start the continual improvement in your organization, you don't have to have a strategic thing. Like, it's not like it's a must required. Like, for example, um, I have I have a requirement to build a SharePoint site, an example, and I want to start a blog about people who joined organization recently and their experience. Maybe that's what I want. So I make a request to IT, and they're like, yeah, you can do SharePoint, da da da. It'll take 5 days. Someone needs to have you need to have a resource who knows how to use the SharePoint, etc., etc. There's a lot of effort required. Um, my colleague might tell me, hey, by the way, I mean, this is just very informal. You just want to let people know that they can share their experience of recent onboarding in our organization. Why don't you just create a Teams channel? Just name it like recently joined dash onboard, and then reach out to HR. And when they onboard the new people, make sure they have access to the Teams channel and they can come and share their experience. They can share photos, they can write short snippet, they can put videos, whatever. Right? Simple, done. Um, so I don't necessarily have to have a strategic program, project, and operational. It's something I need to improve in my day-to-day job, and someone had sort of shared a great idea with me, and I can just execute. So just remember, like, do not think you have to have all of this in place in order to do your continual improvement. Always remember that continual improvement is in alignment with the business benefit. Okay. So we are doing this to run the business, right? So my example about the SharePoint and Teams channel is to keep my operational functional as it is, or it could be changing the business. It could be something, something new, something which we did not do before, but there is a demand for it, or there is an opportunity of some kind. So that's why we are doing it. So just to keep in mind, it's always in alignment with meeting the business requirement. Now, it could be running the existing business just better, improving it, or it could be changing the business model. Like a lot of organization talks about transformational benefits that would come under changing the business, how we do the business. Okay. Other thing you can use in your continual improvement is SWOT analysis. I think, and as you learn DPI, it goes a little bit further than the diagram over here. But I think it's important framework, and you can apply this in your personal life too. Like strength. What are the strength? Generally, those are internal. Like something I have immediately within my control. Weakness, what are the delicate point, or what are the things which we may not be so good at, or something we don't have access to. Those are the weakness. Opportunities and threats are generally external. So because you're serving the market, you're serving the people, so it's outside of your organization. Like what are the opportunities, like customer demand or market need, or brand taking off, those kind of things. And threats is, remember we talked about those 4 dimension and the pestle, that all of those factors can introduce a threat of some kind. It could be regulation, it could be competition. Like for example, how I do my business is within my control. How my competitor does the business and what price point they introduce, that's their decision. So you might have heard stories, like competitors undercutting the competitors by reducing price or lowering the value. I think airline industry, a classic example. um, so those are kind of like a threats, and you as an entity, organization, business team, you need to address all of this. And in order to address, as part of your continual improvement, you would want to take SWOT analysis and identify where you are. Okay. Um, this is now we're jumping into OCM section and communication section. Now I have used this diagram just to, this is a sample, not necessarily applicable to anything specifically, but when I am assessing the impact of what I am doing, and how clearly I can communicate. So, for example, I'm doing the value stream mapping, okay, and I'm introducing a new process in my manufacturing facility. So, each of this symbol, I'm like, where it says waste, like sort of the things which may be, um, I don't want to call it issues, but things which may not be adding value specifically. I want to have a measure, or I like to know where it's happening. So defects or overproduction or overprocessing or waiting time or people's movement or inventory or transporting goods. Now just remember, all of them can't be happening at once. Sometimes maybe waiting time is so much longer versus over processing. So it varies and it changes. And when I try to improve that, I need to understand what's the impact to the organization. So, for example, people movement in the warehouse, the order received section and order dispatch section is like really far. A person has to walk almost like half a mile between the 2 points. back and forth. And we're talking about small warehouse. We're not talking about Amazon warehouse. Those are super automated, but they have to do like half a mile walk, and it's very tiresome, and it takes a lot of time and energy, and it's not very effective, and they end up processing less orders because of it. So once I've identified that, I want to make an improvement. uh, I want to make an improvement. Now, I can make an improvement by shortening the distance or hiring more people. Whichever solution I go for, I need to understand what's the impact. Now, shortening the distance, does that mean I will employ less people now because we have shortened the distance? Therefore, they don't have to go that back and forth that much time. That could be one option, but that may not be very good. Maybe we are a small town, and a lot of people rely on this job, etc., etc. So not really a overall good impact. Number two is we shorten the distance, we don't reduce the headcount, and we improve the order processing so we can get more customers, so we can introduce new products because we can process things faster. I think that's better. So I like that, and that's what I'm gonna go with. So you get the idea. Like that's why I use those symbols to just use that for the example. Communication guiding principle. So we talked about this earlier, the seven guiding principle, and I'm not going to elaborate on each of them because when you do DPI, they're going to talk about it in a detail and how they are used. Again, they are not exclusive. It's not like I use one thing and I cannot use number two. It's not like that. They're all interconnected. Sometimes all of them applies to the situation you're trying to resolve or improve. Having said that, you need to find the best fit, like which one is most appropriate. In here, I have put a star on the number four. So, for example, in DPI, we are doing a lot of directing, we are doing a lot of planning, we are doing a lot of improvement. I think it makes sense that we collaborate and we promote visibility through our communication, through our OCM, through our planning, so we can get the value we are looking for. You can then talk about start where you are, progress iteratively with feedback, which will be agile, think and work holistically, that would be lean, keep it simple, lean, optimize and automate. Again, lean ways of working. So all of that can be applied. Focus on value is just default because remember, we are all here to deliver value. Okay, so in the DPI, it is going to cover in depth. I'm not going to go through it in this masterclass. Okay, next one is the measurement and reporting. We talked about this a little bit earlier. So defining and then evaluating is up. Yeah. So what the diagram is trying to tell us is first you need to define what the purpose is. Then you need to define what the objectives are. Then you're going to define what the indicators are, which is going to show whether the objectives are being met or not. And then the matrix. Matrix is what we will look at, whether it's happening or not. That's top down. Now bottom up, we're going to look at the matrix. So we're going to look at the matrix, and the way we would look at that, we'll understand the indicator, is it going up or down, and if it's going up or down or staying as it is, which objective it relates to, and that objective is aligned to what purpose, right? So if I'm a manager who is responsible for this initiative, I'm looking top down. Okay, if I'm an executive who had set out that strategy, I'm looking at bottom up. So it depends on what role you're playing and what you're trying to achieve, where you fit into this measurement and reporting, but it's important. Now, one might say, do I always have to have a purpose? I think sometimes the purpose isn't documented, but I think there is an underlying purpose. Like, for example, continual improvement. So we're trying to improve in everything we do at each level. That's the overall purpose. And then objective could be how many continual improvements you have identified and how many you have implemented. Indicator might be number of improvement and the benefit of improvement, and metrics is daily, weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, semi-annual. Get the point. That's how it works. Okay, here is another one for the measurement and reporting, like sort of input. You can think about this like opportunity and demand, and then what happens Is it new? Is the work which is being held up? If you are familiar with Agile, this is what it follows. You have stories, small segments of what needs to be done, and then some gets worked on immediately and released, some may be on hold, some may be blocked, some may be work in progress, and some completed and then released. So the measuring reporting might look like how much is the hold time, how long does it take from work in progress to actually deploying it, lead time, elapsed time. This is all for you to do the measurement, and that will give you the overall performance of the team. Like, what is their velocity? Are we adequately resourced? Are we over resourced? Are we under resourced? What adjustment we need to make? Is the work complex? Is the requirement defined simply? A lot of different factors come into play. uh, Value stream and practices, this is, I believe, just the last concept within DPI. So I know we've not really talked about each practice because that will be covered when you actually do the DPI or when you do ITIL Foundation or any other class. It's not possible given this time to cover all the practices, but they are really wonderful. You should definitely look at them and learn about those practices and how you can utilize them in your organization, in your team. In this sample here, they are trying to show us how the value stream and practices are connected together in order to deliver the service. So for example, value stream step 1 and 2 and 3, and then which practices are being followed. So for example, for step 1, we're only following practice Z and Y. um, Step 2, we are following D, E, and Y. And then step 3, we are following D, Z, and Y. So it's a sample, not necessarily trying to say anything, but just sort of show you how they can go together. So for example, um, the vending machine example I have given you at the outset of this class, if I think about the practices I could apply: continual improvement, planning, incident, problem, change, release, and service level management. Those are kind of top of my head. I'm thinking this is what I can apply. And the value stream mapping based on directing is like continual improvement and planning for sure. Whereas if I'm at the deployment release value stream, that probably is release practice. And then operational, I probably will think about problem or change, those kind of stuff. So it varies based on what you're trying to do, but just remember they are all interconnected. Here is a very simple model of service relationship. So when you are doing the value stream and practices, it's not one to one. It's not like I do this in my organization or I do this in my team. Sometimes what you do has an impact on the user. Sometimes what you do has an impact on the supplier. So um, if you think about using Microsoft product, for example, yeah, so probably a lot of people familiar with Office 365, they use it on their daily work. You have emails, you have calendar, you have Teams, you have SharePoint, you have project, you have planner, etc., etc. Whole range of products. Microsoft is an organization A. You might have a seller in between. Maybe your organization did not get a license straight from Microsoft. They got it from some middle entity who resold the license. So if there is a issue, Microsoft might have told you, if it's a licensing issue, go to the mid-level organization. If it's a technical issue, contact Microsoft Help Desk. Now, you could be a small size organization and you can contact Microsoft directly, or you could be a global organization and not every user is being advised to call Microsoft directly if there is an issue. They would have their own internal service provider team who they could reach out to, and it would be sort of like a Microsoft team. And they'll have expert resources who'll troubleshoot and diagnose and resolve the issues around the Microsoft product. So the model is trying to depict like how the relationships are. So organization A is a Microsoft, organization B in this example is that entity you purchase the license from. Organization C, not necessarily an outside, but a function, a team, a department within your organization who looks after the Microsoft portfolio. And organization D is your own team. So that's how, so there's a relationship between all of them. So their practices, what they do, the value stream mapping is applicable. Here is another example where they're trying to show, you know, organization has metrics and measurement, then the business units follow the same thing, then the teams in the business unit follows the same thing, and then the people also follow the same thing, and then all of this is being fed back via their improvement plan. Same example, the Microsoft, which we just used. So Microsoft as a goal, they have like maximum uptime, perhaps 99% uptime on their products. The business unit, so that is the unit who's sold us the licenses. They also want to make sure that when the customer contacts us with the issue, we triage it rightly and we make sure it's resolved within 2 working days. Now, the team who looks after the Microsoft product in your organization has 3 days turnaround time. When a user contacts with an issue, they'll try to resolve it within 3 days. I mean, lot of those things happen faster now just because the technology is seamless. But I'm just saying, like, what the indicators may look like. And then people in the team. So this is really people like you guys and the people who is pretty much in everyone's team, Microsoft team, the business units team, and then your own team. They all need to be aware of those metrics and make sure that their efforts are aligned with trying to measure um, and then achieve those metrics in place. Because imagine if I was someone who was working in Microsoft team in the organization, I did not know that if the user contacts me, I need to resolve it within 3 working days. Like I might read it, okay, yeah, I know this person's having issue with the Teams channel. It continuously logs them out, but why have this another important issue? Or I'm going on holiday for next 3 days. I'll have a look when I come back. Not acceptable. Okay. And finally, it lands us to the conclusion of the class. So, why so we've covered a lot here. We've covered, what ITIL 4 is, the certification path, what it looks like, what are the key concepts of DPI, what you can do to achieve that certification, what are the key concepts, who can use it, what does those concepts mean at high level, why are we doing all of this? Here are the simple 6 reasons. You can add more to the list. We're doing this to drive and manage effective organizational change. We are encouraging a culture of continual improvement. We want to facilitate decision making. We want to support the change management. We like to minimize disruption, and we want to make sure that we innovate while still remaining compliant. So I think that's pretty much it. Now we have time for any questions.
Thank you, Rena. That was very informative. I know everyone is looking forward to the Q&A session, so go ahead and start putting your questions into the questions panel. And now I'd like to give the presentation rights over to Robin, our vendor manager, to introduce our promotions and webinar-related courses.
Thank you for extending to me this opportunity to speak with our attendees. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for attending this webinar. I sincerely hope that it added value to your knowledge of IT service management. And in case you feel like revisiting this session for any reference, please feel free to do so by clicking on the access recording button, and we would be more than happy to make it readily available to you. Next. I would like to offer you a glimpse of Netcom Learning's capabilities and why we are the best that there is when it comes to learning services, training, talent development, and beyond. I take pride to announce that Netcom Learning is the winner of 2023 Microsoft US Learning Partner of the Year award. Netcom Learning has been into the managed learning space for 2.5 decades now and have provided its services to 80% of Fortune 1000 companies. Having a strong reputation in B2G sector, Netcom Learning has served over 100 US military bases. We have trained over 1 million professionals to learn and grow in their respective fields across 36,000 enterprise clients. We also cherish a recommendation rate of 96% from our customers. All the numbers I've just mentioned have been a result of our specially curated trainings delivered by a portfolio of 3,000 plus certified trainers. Moving ahead, being an authorized ITIL learning partner, I would like to announce Netcom Learning's upcoming schedule of courses from ITIL that are highly recommended to expand your horizon and knowledge of IT service management. To add value to your learning curve, we encourage you to access our free on-demand training and blog post related to IT service management. You can also take advantage from Learning Passport, which is Netcom Learning's solution to a flexible team training. It is designed to be customized in line with the number of learners you plan to train from top technology vendors like Microsoft, Cisco, Adobe, ITL, and more. This single package can be redeemed over 4,000 official courses with a validity of 12 months. Keeping in mind the requirement of our customers, you can further choose from Learning Savings Passport or Learning Voucher Passport as per your need and requirement. Next, I would like to introduce you to Netcom Plus Learners subscription, a learning solution that we have developed for our enterprise customers. All you are required to do is invest one time and reap the benefits of the unlimited access to authorized trainings from top vendors like Microsoft, AWS, Cisco, and more through a span of 12 months. As displayed on your screen, we deliver this subscription in three type of packages. The free or the silver package allows you to access 300 plus e-learning modules, or you can go for gold at $199. That would give you an access to 400 plus e-learning modules along with silver package benefits. Third, we have for you our best selling and most popular platinum package at $2,999. That gives you an access to 400 plus e-learning modules plus 100 plus virtual instructor led training programs in addition to the gold package. We would also recommend you to go through Netcom's website for more information, such as courses and certifications, our free virtual events, blogs, saving programs, and promos. In case you need a leadership point of view on the importance of lifelong learning and building smart workforce, we highly recommend you go through the book Building an Innovative Learning Organization by Russell Sarder, CEO Netcom. You can easily find it on Amazon.com. I sincerely hope we could add value to your knowledge of IT service management in the time you choose to spend with us during this webinar. For more information on such sessions and latest updates on IT and business training, please follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thanks so much for guiding us through all that information, Robin. And now we're going to go ahead and jump right into our question and answer session. If you haven't yet, it's not too late to pop your questions into the question panel. The first question we have today is, what certificate do you need to have in order to enroll in the class?
So you need to have ITIL Foundation certificate in order to study the direct plan and improve. You need to have passed and not the ITIL previous version like 3 or 2, ITIL 4 Foundation. That's what you need to have in place in order to go for the direct plan and improve.
Let's take another question. How many years of experience do I need to have to take a DPI class?
So there is no specific prerequisite from Excelos to say you need to have X number of experience. Having said that, if you ask for my personal opinion, I would say like at least a year, maybe 6 months to a year, depending on how intense your job is in IT service management, would be useful. I mean, that would make understanding the concept a lot easy versus someone who has not got any, real experience in IT service management and then trying to take the class. Yeah.
Next question in the queue is, how will it help in my job?
So it can help you in variety of ways. First and foremost, you improve your knowledge for service management. You can better guide your team. If you're someone who's looking for promotion, or definitely someone who likes to, perhaps enhance the role you're performing, I would highly recommend that you take DPI, because there is I like this particular module because it covers directing, planning, and continual improvement. Like there's sort of like a three key concepts in one class. So yeah, definitely recommend someone who's looking to enhance the role they are performing or advance their career. It will definitely help you.
And let's take one last question for the day before we wrap it up. Do I have to pass any exam to get a certificate?
That's a that's a good question. And yes, if you need a certificate to say I am now certified in direct plan and improve, yes, you do need to pass an exam. If you're just someone who's just learning, like just like to learn new thing, not necessarily get a certificate, you don't need to pass an exam. And I mean, exam is pretty straightforward. 40 questions, multiple choice. You need to get 28, so that's like 70%. And you have 90 minutes. I mean, it sounds a lot, but it's not really. And it's a closed book exam. So, yeah, I mean, I wish you all the best. I think if you do take a class, go for an exam. So, if you need a certificate, yes, you do need to pass an exam.
Once again, I want to remind you that as you leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to help us by taking a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience as we are constantly looking at how we can improve our future sessions. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. We want to thank all of you for joining us today, and if you do come up with any additional questions, feel free to send them to webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time. We hope that you found today's webinar informative, and we look forward to seeing you back here with us soon. Feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our webinars and other courses. Have a great day, everyone.